Good morning. Welcome listeners and viewers to our British Business Podcast. I'm delighted to welcome Nevşah, who is a best-selling author, a teacher, and entrepreneur and investor. Fascinating journey this morning to go on, so welcome.
Hi.
And I'd love for you to start with giving us a flavour of your journey and what business you're in and how you've come about that.
Sure. I studied, I'm going to start from my background. I studied actually architecture. I didn't even finish a business school. I studied architecture. And I have been always interested in human psychology and behavioral sciences. So from architecture, I moved more on behavioral sciences because I wanted to create spaces people would feel good and spaces with colors and everything to support their health and well-being. So I was kind of like, even though I studied architecture, I was moving more on the side to help people. And then it was many years ago in my 20s, I started thinking to myself, wow, my interest is, shifting to more behavioral sciences and human psychology and, helping people on health and well-being. Maybe I should, go on another path. And so I started studying behavioral sciences. So on top of architecture, I have a behavioral sciences background. Wow. And in my 20s, on top of all that, in my personal life, I was feeling kind of like a little bit lost, and I was feeling kind of like I didn't really find the purpose of my life because I was interested in many things, and we are all conditioned in many ways from our mothers, fathers, and it's kind of like I see it as like people, when they come to their 30s or 40s, yes, they start noticing what they really want from their lives. And I'm a lucky person because I started doing yoga, meditation, and all kinds of breathing techniques and breathing practices when I was very young, in my 20s, in my early 20s actually. And I found breathing and breathing techniques fascinating because with breathing techniques, like many people probably are aware of what breathing techniques are, because there are a lot of people who do yoga nowadays. It's a trend, and a lot of people practice some kind of a breathing technique one way or another, like it's used in Pilates. You use certain breathing techniques in yoga. You use some techniques in speaking and singing. So breathing and breath work and breathing techniques are used around the world by millions of people, even though they don't notice it, or they don't call it like I practice breath work every day, but they do. Okay. Like we, even without noticing, when we are anxious or when we are stressed, we use a technique. We breathe deep. We take a deep breath, or sometimes, for example, if our children, when they are small, if they are too hyperactive or anxious, we tell them to stop and breathe. We're already kind of like know it intuitively.
Yes.
And I was like, it was very interesting for me to see that the moment I started changing my breathing, my thinking and my emotions started changing as well. So it's like, because I was also interested in behavioral sciences, I was really amazed at the fact that how I breathe affects how I think and how I feel and who I become as an individual, like how I react, how I interfere with life, how my relationships, everything, my thinking habits, everything. So I wanted to dive deep. And in my first real breathwork session, which was 40 minutes of full-on deep breathing, it was kind of like, it changed my whole life in one breathing session.
And was this with a practitioner, or a professional that you'd gone to see?
Yes. So like I said, in my professional life, I was kind of like switching from architecture to behavioral sciences already, getting interested in psychology. I think we all have our own life journeys, and whatever we're interested in on the business level, we're also interested in on the personal level. So it was kind of like that shift happening on the personal level as well. And those were the times when I was, feeling a little lost, and I didn't really know the mission of my life, the purpose. Like I didn't have even 10% of the fulfillment I have right now in my life, in my relationship with myself. And in that first ever breathing session, which was like, I was already practicing pranayama. I was already practicing different breathing techniques, but this was kind of like a 45 minutes of just lying down and just concentrating on my breath and fully breathing in, just fully concentrating on my breath, fully breathing in. And everything was different after I finished that session. It was amazing. And I practiced the session with a facilitator, obviously, because it's like, especially during deep breath work, it's also kind of like an emotional release and physical and emotional and all kinds of,
just to capture that. Mm-hmm. You went into that session having researched, having practiced, having practiced some of the areas of what you've done, and then you came out of that 40 minutes later like an epiphany moment. Was it as deep as that? Was it as did you have clarity about that?
I think it was kind of like an awakening experience.
Great word.
It was very powerful. It was kind of like this shift happening. I mean, for me, I don't know how it happens for other people, because it's a different experience for everyone. And sure. I haven't met many people who had this experience in their first sessions. It takes a while. Okay. But I think in my experience, I was really ready. And I really, like I said, I really wanted to find the meaning of my life. I really
perfect storm right there.
Really deeply wanted to find why I find the answer to the question, why am I here? Wow. Like, what is this all about? What's my purpose here? And bam, it happened in that session. Amazing. And I woke up from that session so clear about everything, about what I want to do with my life. So it was kind of like this puzzle. I think what that session did was it kind of transformed all of my conditioning. That was like the outside conditioning, the ideas of other people, the rights and wrongs and shoulds and shouldn't and must do this, not, don't do this, don't do that, have to do this, have to do that. Sure. And like I cleared them all, and it was just me and my breathing in its purest form. And it was kind of like so clear, my path, what I want to do with my life. It's like what happened in the past as well, like, architecture. And I woke up from the session. I remember saying to myself, just understanding because I was also questioning, like, I'm interested in human psychology and behavioral sciences. Why did I study architecture then? It's like, because I loved architecture when studying as well. It didn't make sense. And I was so clear. And I woke up saying to myself, I'm a life architecture. I'm going to support individuals, mentor individuals, rebuild their lives. And it was so clear. Wow. And that whole architectural journey, that whole formula of building houses, it's actually, I find it very similar to building our lives, because our lives are also a system. It's like, it is the system you build around your purpose and who you are. And we are all architectures of our own lives. Wow. And I said to myself, I know who I am. I didn't know, they say when you know the why, the how comes by itself. Sure. So it was that moment.
Start with why.
Yeah, that moment of getting clear about my why, why I existed in this universe. And I was very clear. And from that day on, I basically dedicated my life to finding the right tools, finding the most powerful tools used ever on this planet to help humans reach to a level of self-mastery in their lives. So that has been my mission for over 20 years now. And it has been a very inspiring journey for me. And from that day on, and people usually ask me, like in podcasts and interviews, and people who know me from my Turkish background, who know me from, all of the interviews and books and everything I've been doing, they ask me, like, your inspiration hasn't changed. It's like you even seem more inspired about your work than the first day you started. Like, how do you stay motivated, they say. And I say, I don't stay motivated. How do you motivate yourself? And I say, I don't motivate myself because I'm inspired from within.
Wow.
I don't need that motivation from outside, because I see many people in the business world, or many people, that's why I said, I was very lucky because I found my why in my 20s, because we are all conditioned. That's a fact. It's like during our teenage, because it's kind of almost impossible for someone in her, in the teenage years, like who is 15 or 16, to find their why. It's like the system makes it impossible. It's like that until I think we are 25, 24, 25. It's kind of like this whole research and, trying to understand life and all about outgoing and meeting people. And it's kind of like that conditions us normally. And we move away from ourselves. And then if you move in life, take steps, especially in the business world, with that conditioning, with that idea of success, with the idea of success, and with all the, I have to do this, and I have to do that. And I usually see sentences like, I have to, earn money, and I have to do this business, or I have to be successful in this way or that way, or like there are all these formulas that are taught to us, but they are not an inner knowing. And whenever it's not an even inner knowing, people need motivation. So that's why I meet a lot of people who are finding it hard to motivate themselves, especially like when if people took a step and into the business world with those conditionings, with those I must do this, I must do that, and with all that, kind of like boxes or conditioning we have, without knowing who I am, without having the capability to answer the question, who am I? What happens is, I think, as we age and as we get, earn money, become successful, it's kind of like, because it's never a problem. It's like earning money, like we spoke about before the podcast, earning money. It's like you earn money, you find your own way, you do some business, get successful, but then you come to a point where you're like, okay, what is this all about? And I see a lot of people, it's like it seems like from the outside, they have everything, but they're still like looking for themselves, and they lose their motivation, and they kind of feel like, okay, what's next now? So what's going on here? And I was lucky because I was face to face with that emotion or emptiness, or kind of like feeling lost when I was in my 20s. In my 20s, I looked at my life, and I kind of like, I saw a great, beautiful painting, because it was beautiful. I was educated from the best schools in Turkey. I had a good social community and, good friends, healthy family. Everything was okay, And I had a very happy childhood. I didn't have any, things I could call traumatic or whatever.
Yes.
But my life was kind of like a beautiful painting, and I couldn't find myself inside that painting. It was kind of like as if somebody else's life.
What a great analogy.
Yeah, and it was in my 20s, because I meet a lot of people in their 40s, in their 50s who feel that way. And if you invested 40 years of your life, 50 years of your life to build that painting, to, paint that beautiful, amazing life, but it's not the life you really want, it's kind of like, that's, I believe, why many people are depressed, or many people drink too much, or many people use other stuff. It's like, because unless, I think, so this was kind of like too esoteric maybe, or too spiritual for the business world, but I think it sits at the core of, first of all, business success. So I think, like, if you want to build your own business, if you want to, do business and earn some money, you can always do that. But if you're someone who wants to do something unique, who want to create something unique, something extraordinary, and really create a unique, fulfilling, amazing business, you cannot do that without finding the answer to the question, who am I, or why am I here? It's almost impossible. It's like, it stays standard.
So when you mentioned about the breathing, and obviously you went into that and that had an instant impact. As we talked about earlier, that's only one dynamic or one dimension. The breathing is just one dimension, because there will be people out there who are in that space. They're at that position in their life. To look to somebody like you, I think, is at least twofold, if not more, in terms of, I do want to understand my purpose. I do want to know where I am right now. But not only that, how can I benefit? How can my business benefit? How can my team benefit? Because you mentioned something earlier about well-being and mental health being hugely important, and also coming to the fore now as a conversation. We're starting to talk about it. How could you be there, help our viewers and listeners to get them into talking about this? Do you have people randomly calling you, contacting you, seeking you out, or do you have your own area of website, marketing, all of that? Can you explain
sure.
that?
Before I go into that and give them kind of like the answer of how do I do that, and how can I do that, I'm kind of like certain, I have this certainty of the formula, the secret of life. It's kind of like, it's very basic. And I think every mental, emotional, physical problem we have, health, mental health, physical health, relationship, like all problems we have are because we lost our connection with ourselves. And I'm certain of that because I have worked with enough people, tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
And I haven't ever done anything else than leading them into reconnecting with themselves. And I've seen tens of thousands of people change their whole lives, like people who stopped the whole, aging process, people who got, who were really mentally sick and problematic and got healed, and who had traumas in the past and relationship problems and business problems, money problems. It's like, that's kind of like the secret of life. I think my gift is in this world is telling humans that it's like all of your problems, there is one source of all of your problems, and it's you disconnected from yourself. If you find the solution of that, if you solve that problem, you're going to solve every other problem.
Wow.
So that's kind of like my gift. That's my message to, people, like, do everything you can to reconnect with yourself. And I think stop is not a word, but it's a sentence. Like, it's a big book, like
it's a small word, but a huge
it's like,
thing to do.
Stop, just stop. Take time to stop. Even if it's 2 minutes, even if it's 3 minutes,
We don't,
5.
really. Human beings don't, normally.
And
stop.
then we ask ourselves, why do I have all these mental health problems and health problems? It's like, it's within. It's just stop and take time to connect. And from there, I'm going to come back to breathing.
Sure.
So when we ask ourselves the question, because I kind of like after that first session, I found that answer. I was kind of like, okay, if I stay connected with myself, all of my problems will be solved. And thereon, it was, that was my life experience. And that has been, my life experience as a teacher, helping other people as well. So I've been solving the problem of reconnecting us with ourselves. And I have been asking for over 20 years the question and researching on that. So that has been my mission over 20 years. So how do we reconnect humans with themselves? What's the most powerful, most efficient, most effective, fastest modalities and methods? And I've been researching. So I've been going in and out of, seminars, workshops, retreats, finished hundreds of courses that are out there. And as a summary of all of these, our own breath is the most powerful tool, period. There is no other powerful tool, as powerful as breath. And I think like Wim Hof is trying to tell that on the physical level, because it's like if you want to change your physical fitness levels and health levels and endurance levels, you will need a better breathing. If you want to have better mental health, you will need better breathing. And it's kind of like mental health is huge in the world right now. And I see many people, meditating, trying to meditate, doing mindfulness practices, which are great, because I'm also a meditation teacher. But let's not forget that millions of people, and that's from respiratory scientist books, that's not my idea, that's already in the medical books, millions of people have dysfunctional breathing habits. So millions of people, probably 7% in overall world population, have dysfunctional breathing habits. Some have real bad habits, some have better breathing habits, which means most of us are not breathing as healthy as we should be breathing. And most of us during the day do something, change our breathing pattern, do something in our breathing which affects our respiratory chemistry and respiratory physiology. To summarize, which leads to having less and less oxygen in our cells and in our brain. And I keep telling to my students, or anywhere I go to, like, if you don't have enough oxygen in the brain, your brain will not be functioning in its fullest performance. And then we speak about mental health. Without a healthy brain, how are you going to have mental health? It's just, it's just not wise. It's, it doesn't make sense to me. First, so many people, there's this question of, should we concentrate on especially on the health and wellness industry, should we first concentrate on the physiology or psychology? And I'm on the more physiology side, because to have mental health, to feel better emotionally, and to have everything, it's like I first need to be healthy physiologically. If you have headaches, if you have migraine, if you have a neck pain, shoulder pain, you can't even think of mental health. It's like physiology is so important. And when you think of physiology, we live, our whole organs, our tissues, our cells live and stay healthy with our breathing. It's like we take our first breath, come to life, we breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, do it again and again throughout our whole, life process. And breathing in and out is the only one thing we do constantly. You don't even think all the time. You don't eat the whole time. You don't sleep the whole time. But the whole time of your life journey, you breathe in, breathe out, breathe. So it's like our life is a summary of our first breath and our last breath, and we don't pay attention to that. And when you look at it physiologically, our breath is the energy we need. It's kind of like we say, okay, we're breathing, but it's like, that breath is the energy, is the fuel for your organs. It is the fuel for your brain. It is the fuel for your cells and tissues to regenerate and stay live and stay healthy. And if you have a breathing problem, you obviously are not going to stay healthy, because if you don't have enough oxygen in the blood or in the cells, they won't regenerate. You'll probably get old faster. You'll lose your mental health. Obviously, you won't have enough oxygen. If you don't have enough oxygen in the brain, it won't function properly. And then your body won't create enough ATP, which is pure energy created with the breath you take in and with the oxygen levels. If you don't produce, your body doesn't produce enough ATP, then there is physiological energy hunger, we say. It's like your body is hungry to energy, and then you eat too much, you gain weight, and all kinds of problems.
Cycle begins.
Yeah, so it's like, so I realized many years ago that breath is, first of all, it's obviously a path to health, but also it is beyond all this, like health, mental health. It connects us with who we are. So it's the most powerful tool I ever came up with, researching many other tools. In just 3 to 5 minutes a day, if people took time to close their eyes, connect with their breathing, and try different breathing exercises every day, just to connect with their breathing. Eventually, in a couple of days, in a couple of weeks, I'm certain that they would find the answer to their questions, get more healthy.
And this is not you saying, oh, and by the way, you need to go to my website. You need to contact me. What you're saying is an individual person in their own space, in their own place, just needs to focus on themselves. There's no cost to this. There's no money that changes hands.
Yeah.
But if they did that, you're absolutely convinced that their life would change.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen tens of thousands of people. It's just, and how they can start is they can just research from the internet, online, check for breathing techniques. Of course, to come to my business, of course, with this mission, what I did is, because I've been in the industry for a long time, and I'm an individual who created the breathwork industry in Turkey, because the industry didn't exist. There wasn't such thing like breathwork, breathing scientists, and I created a whole industry, and then started working with the government. A lot of issues went on for 5 years. I got 50 no's, but then in the end, yes, and made it a legal job with my whole team. We became a federation, the Breath Coaching Federation. I was kind of like that dedicated, creating a whole industry. And then, because I had to, it's kind of like life is in I think it's a journey.
There's a podcast right there, just from you starting in Turkey, just to get that first yes.
It's crazy. And I think felt responsible for the breath workers I trained and certified, because I was the first ever. And I started workshops, and I grew big very fast, grew even like famous very fast. Thousands of people started coming to my retreats every year. That's how I became a multimillionaire, created a multi-million business. And, everything happened so fast, best-selling books and this and that. Because I trained more than 2,000 breath workers and certified, when there was a problem with the government not allowing, because it wasn't legal, not allowing the breath workers to do their things, we decided with my team, I had a team of 120 breath workers working with, we decided in one night and founded a federation the other day with 500 plus people. And then, started working with the government, created the whole standards. It's so much paperwork, creating those, books and standards and guidelines. And
from something as so simple as a breath.
Breath. But it's like, it can get really complicated.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's a story for another day.
Absolutely.
And I it's kind of like that has been my legacy to the Turkish community now that I'm here. To come back to my little baby who has been born two years ago, which is Breath Hub. I'm leading Breath Hub.
Is that Breath Hub? And is there a website, breathhub.co.uk or .com or
breathhub.app?
Okay,
it's an app. So what I realized in the industry, because I was kind of like feeling 4 or 5 years ago, I was feeling like my journey as a teacher was evolving to more being a businesswoman.
Okay.
Because I had a lot of experience in the business world. I was already an investor. I was investing in startups already and other investments. And beside me being a teacher, I was a very successful businesswoman as well, creating that whole system. And my journey, I was feeling my journey transforming into the more business side than teaching side. I'm still teaching. I have still my courses on the digital platform, all that. I still have the Nevşah Institute on the side. But 3 years ago, I started seeing the huge demand and need for breath work, but also seeing the big problem that breathwork workshops and retreats and all of those were done on site, were very expensive, local. You had to find a teacher. You couldn't find a teacher everywhere. It's kind of like if somebody wanted to, like my mom had migraine and she healed her migraine because I practiced with her when we were together many years ago. every day, like 5 to 10 minutes of breath work. So she was able to heal migraine. And I said to myself, okay, how can I create a platform using technology, of course, so that that platform becomes your breath coach, so that it teaches you, it guides you, like I did for my mom. It guides you to a breathwork session each and every day. And I wanted it to be as cheap as possible, as scalable as possible. I wanted to have all of the techniques and sessions and content, because breathwork is not only done just as techniques. Like there are breathwork apps which offer only the techniques, but I don't see it as sustainable, because breathwork all around the world, in reality, in retreats and workshops, are taught with content, because breathwork is most powerful if you use it with, content. It's like with awareness practices. Yes. It's like when you start, for example, focusing on a relationship problem and start thinking of it, and then on top of that do a breathing technique for 5 minutes, then you find the answers to that relationship problem. It's like with content, it gets stronger. Yeah, so we created a platform called Breath Hub. It's an app. It is Breath Hub. Yeah, that app. It's on Apple Store. It's on Google Play. It has more than 800 sessions inside it. And for me, the most important thing over the years was being able to analyze people's breathing habits. So if you have a breathing habit, because different people need different techniques. Of course, yeah. So for me to serve people on the best level, yes, I need an analysis system. And we created a very unique algorithm. And it is on Breath Hub app, where you go and answer some questions, like around 20 questions. They are all backed with behavioral science rules. Sure. So we're basically analyzing your breathing behavior. Okay. And then from that analysis, we create a customized journey for you, so that you can go on to your customized journey, practice 5 to 10 minutes of breathing techniques you need specifically to have a better breathing habit, to have a healthy body, healthy mind, And
this can be done any time of any day.
Anytime. You can do it in the office, you can do it anywhere in just 5 to 10 minutes, It's nothing, but the effect and the result is huge. So that's kind of like my little baby.
You might not know this, but we've already come to the time where I have to say to you, is there anything else that you've missed that you'd like to mention or talk about? Because we're almost out of time, unbelievably. Yeah. We started a conversation which seemed 2 minutes ago, and we're now at the end of it. Is there anything that that you'd like to mention?
Not anything I would like to mention, but I would like to just summarize in maybe 3 sentences what I said, or to get people, into the awareness of what we need. So the first thing, the secret to life, if you want to solve all your problems, reconnect with yourself. Do everything to reconnect with yourself, because it's going to solve all of your problems. Second, the most powerful tool to reconnect with yourself is through your own breath. I've been searching other ways for a long time. I haven't found any method as powerful as breath work, so you don't have to search for it. That's it. Third, if you want to do that, if you want to change your physical, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and if you want to master your life, connecting with yourself, find all the answers to your questions, Breath Hub is right now the best app ever on this planet, best breathing app. There are not much breathing apps, but it's like the content it has, created by experts, it's suggested by psychologists, behavioral scientists. It's so powerful, the whole content. Download Breath Hub, analyze your breathing, start a customized journey, and send us emails telling you changed your life.
I'm there, and I will be tonight.
Yeah, that's it.
Viewers, listeners, another fascinating morning's content. Until next time.